In this lecture, I briefly want to touch on if you plan on using Amazon Prime to drop ship and as a buyer, right? There's nothing wrong with Amazon, especially Amazon Prime. I recommend that for beginners for a lot of different reasons. There's so many different products on Amazon that you can pull. There's literally millions in their product catalog that you can list on Facebook, and so it's a great reputable supplier. You can also obviously get free returns. There's a lot of advantages to using Amazon, and that's why most people use it, right? In other lectures, I've said why you want to branch away potentially from Amazon, from eBay, from Walmart, from the main ones like Home Depot, right? From all those, right? You want to find more obscure suppliers because it's an easier, better way to build a long-term business that other people won't be able to snipe you. You'll be able to find, when you do find products, they'll last a lot longer because there won't be any other competition on those products in Facebook Marketplace, because you're using an obscure supplier. The majority of people are going to be using Amazon, eBay, Walmart, Home Depot, etc. And there's nothing wrong with those, right? But you're playing in, yes, it's a big pool, right? Like, yes, you're a fish in a big pool with a lot of opportunity because it's so fresh and Facebook Marketplace dropshipping is so fresh, right? But the idea here is like eventually you want to start branching away from those, okay? And so I use eBay a lot, I do use Amazon a lot, and I do use Walmart a lot. Don't get me wrong, but I've started to move away from them as much as I possibly can. I'm listing from other obscure suppliers because if I find another good obscure supplier, like I said, there's not going to be as much competition there. But one of the things I want to touch on with Amazon Prime is the suspensions that were happening on Amazon Prime buyer accounts toward the end of 2021. You need to understand that this is a possibility if you plan on using Amazon Prime as a buyer, okay? So a few different points on this. Yes, it was happening. It seemed to be random. It seemed like they were just suspending people for drop shipping and buying, thousands of products or hundreds of products to different addresses like we are doing. Technically, it is against Amazon Prime's terms of service, but they've never shown a proponents to do this over the past decade. They've never suspended any buyer accounts. Amazon typically didn't care, how many times you bought, how many addresses you sent it to. One thing I will say is make sure that you're constantly editing the address that you're putting in there. You're not adding a bunch of new addresses, right? You don't want to have hundreds of addresses or dozens of addresses. You want to have like one or two addresses in there. So every single time you go ahead and you place an order, make sure that you are editing the current address in there, not adding a new one, okay? But you need to understand that, but by doing this, by spending, hundreds of orders or thousands of orders on Amazon Prime, you run the risk of getting your Amazon Prime account suspended, okay? And that's not necessarily that big of a deal. You can always open a new Amazon Prime account. You could always open an Amazon Business Prime account, although I've heard other people talk about those getting potentially suspended and linked to your original account as well, okay? I just wanted to touch on this because it is actually happening, and there's a few things that you can do to mitigate this. First and foremost, use other suppliers. That's a no-brainer. I've touched on this a million other times. Yes, you can still use Amazon, but I wouldn't build your entire store using Amazon products, okay? The second thing is you can use Amazon, but use other products on Amazon that aren't Prime, right? There's so many good examples of this. Like this, you probably can't see this, but like this one's a perfect, okay, that's not an example of one. That's a bad example. But like dressers, for example, like this one, oh, that's Prime. Maybe this one won't be. Okay, this is Prime too. But you get the picture. Like find other examples of ones like that aren't Prime. Like obviously all these have the Prime tag, so like you could find a bunch of them. And then typically when you find a listing that isn't Prime, like this one, okay, of course it's Prime. A lot of them are Prime. But you can find like a string of listings. Like let's say you find one like dresser, for example, that's not Amazon Prime, or one toy that's not Amazon Prime. Typically there's a bunch of suggested ones down here, and you can find a string of ones that aren't Prime, and you can just list from Amazon but not necessarily use Prime, or list from Amazon Prime but also make a lot of listings that aren't Prime too, because you can still use the shipping on Amazon Prime. Another tip there is to list high-priced things on Amazon Prime, because even if you eventually lose your Prime eligibility, you're not going to lose your ability to buy on Amazon. You're just going to be able to lose the ability to buy Prime eligible items on Amazon, right? And so it's not going to matter if it's super high anyway, because if it's above $35, I believe is the threshold, you're still going to get free shipping on Amazon, right? The only time it really matters, and the main reason, there's two main reasons I see people getting suspended, and this is speculation, but I've been doing this for a long time, so I kind of understand it, is when they're constantly buying low-priced items, like $10 items, or like $8 items, or like $15 items on Amazon, and they're buying those items over and over and over and over and over again and sending them to multiple different addresses. The reason Amazon doesn't like that is because they're using Prime, they're fulfilling those orders Prime and they might be potentially losing or not netting much on those orders, but they're shipping them out in the hopes that they're going to make money on you on other ones, right? And so if you're constantly only doing low priced orders, it's going to be a red flag to their system, and they're not going to like that, right? So if you do use Prime, or you do use Amazon, either list Prime items that are more than $35 at least, or ideally higher priced items, so that if you ever do lose your Prime eligibility on that account, it won't matter because you can still buy them free shipping anyway, and then the shipping might just be a little bit longer, which isn't a big deal. Or list other items that aren't Amazon Prime, or list from other obscure suppliers, right? And another reason, the second reason that I see people getting suspended on Amazon with their Prime buyer accounts, is they're doing way too many returns, right? They're filing returns for everything. And when your return rate gets so high, Amazon doesn't like that. And it's a red flag to their system as well. So just kind of wanted to touch on this. There's nothing wrong with using Amazon. I still use Amazon all the time. You can see here, like in the past, like in 2021, when I just kind of started this, over 4,000 orders placed just in the past 3 months. So I still do this. As you can see, there's almost 2,000 orders placed. So like I still do this, and I don't have any experience of getting suspended with my Amazon buyer account. It has never happened to me. So I can only, speak on what I hear happen to other people. There was a string of suspensions that happened toward the end of 2021. So I did want to touch on this, but you can still use Amazon. You can still use Amazon Prime, but these are just ideas to mitigate your risk and understand that it can potentially happen to you. So I wanted to bring it to your attention. All right. Key takeaways from this lecture are: yes, you can use Amazon, but list high priced Prime items, ideally above $35, or ideally even higher, closer to 100. You're going to get better margins on them anyway, and you're going to be able to process a lot less orders for those higher profits. Okay. Wouldn't it be better to process 10 high profit orders than 30 low price orders anyway that are bringing you the same amount of profit, right? Like you could process 30 orders a day for $300 profit if each of them are $10 profit, or you could process 10 orders a day at $30 profit, and it's the same exact thing, and you're doing less work, right? So that's ideal anyway. Okay. The second thing is list items on Amazon that aren't Prime. That's a perfect way, because you still get the protection from Amazon when you want to return it. You still get the the reliable suppliers and the standard that Amazon sellers are held to. You're still getting the potentiality of all the different products in Amazon's catalog that aren't Prime, and there's tons of them. Trust me, there's millions of them. Even ones that aren't Prime, you just have to find them. And you can use the little sidebar to kind of sort for those things, or use other obscure suppliers that aren't Amazon. All right. So I just wanted to touch on this. Hope it helps.